My name is Lavanya Mahate, and I am the owner of Saffron Valley Bix Bakery and Cafe, founder of Rise, but also Biscott's Bakery and Cafe. I consider myself a soulpreneur. I operate from the soul, which is what I have always done. And so I just lead my life, and more so in the last few years, since I've kind of realized, the more important questions in life, like who am I, what's my purpose, and how do I get to show up for myself and others around me. My focus has shifted from, being more egocentric, which is where all the drive and all the material success, the external markers of success as society, um, you know, tells us, to being more soul-centered. And so I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here because I know that there's so many conscious leaders right here. The fact is, each and every one of you is a conscious leader. Some of you know it, some of you are yet to discover it, right? So I was talking to Miley a couple of months ago, and she said, you'll be looking for a space to host our next UACC. And I'm like, I would love to do that because we opened this space last year, September. And my history relationship with UACC goes back a long way. Like since the inception, I was working at the Salt Lake Chamber. And really, Eunice, a great friend and a mentor and a conscious leader herself, is such an amazing role model. So I'm really happy to see you here, and just want to acknowledge the beautiful person you are and such a conscious leader. Rise is a nonprofit organization that I, along with Asha and Naja, my co-founders, started in 2018. It took us about 4 years to build the kitchen. We soft launched it last year, and starting this year, this is our very first cohort. I'm so proud of them, and I'm so, well, would you mind coming over here? And Chef Sarah here, she is our chef instructor, and does a wonderful job with our lovely ladies, Fatima and Sheila, Iran, and Wilma. This is our group from Utah Asian Chamber of Commerce, and they're here for a presentation, and they wanted to say hello to all of you. And yeah, would you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Fatima. I'm from Afghanistan. I came here since 2003. It's almost 21 years old.
Yes.
Hi everyone, my name is Sheila, and also I'm from Afghanistan. I came here 2017.
Welcome. My name is Aida. I'm from Venezuela. Sigmund Iniesta. Welcome. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wilma. I've been here about 5 years. I come from Central Africa.
Well, thank you. And Chef Sarah, would you like to give us an update on the program, please?
So our cohort started, we did orientation the first week of April, and then we have progressed into our 12-week training program. We're in week 8 right now. We're cruising along. We started with 7, and as life happens, we're down to these amazing 4 ladies right now. I see so much potential from them. It's so fun to work with them on a daily basis. Yesterday we made stocks. We're working on the mother sauces today. And then we'll finish up sauces, and then we're moving into soups. And then next week it's a lot of meat. We're into meat. The biggest thing that we emphasize towards the beginning of the program is getting them their food handlers. We want all of our ladies, the very first thing is safety and sanitation. We want things to be done properly. We want it safe. We want nobody to get sick. And as we come across different cultures, we realize that things are done really differently in different countries. And so we do have to conform to a certain point to be in certain industries. So our food handlers is one of those things we make sure is taken care of very fast. Our ladies all speak English to some extent. And as we know, when we say basic English, that definitely varies among whoever you're saying that to. So we have our giggles when we have some communication errors, but it's fun. We make it work. We will correct each other. The training program is 12 weeks long, and then it's Monday through Friday from 10 to 3 right now. We do take some holidays off and occasionally for an event. Yeah, they're doing really great. And then all 4 of them at this point are interested in moving on to the next level, which would be a 12-week paid internship at a local restaurant partner. Actually working on that placement a little bit this afternoon, gathering some restaurant information. And of course, we know that they're all going to have different interests and abilities. So we're trying to narrow that down a little bit for each one. We definitely want them on the more fine dining side than shoving them into fast food. So I'm just really excited. These ladies are coming along so fast. And when they look at their book, because we do have curriculum, when they look at their book, the book's thick. They keep it here most of the time. Sometimes they take it back and forth on their commute. It's thick. And we're down to like the last little bit. So it feels like we've come very far, which we have. But the last 4 weeks are also very intensive too. So we're excited to bring Rise to the community and to also have the community bring people to Rise also. So thank you for letting us, jump in and say hi.
Thank you.
We're gonna go make some
Thank
sauce.
you. Yes. Okay. I consider myself a soulpreneur. I operate from the soul, which is what I have always done. And so I just lead my life, and more so in the last few years, since I've kind of realized, the more important questions in life, like who am I, what's my purpose, and how do I get to show up for myself and others around me. My focus has shifted from, being, more egocentric, which is where all the drive and all the material success, the external markers of success as society tells us, to being more soul-centered. And so I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here because I know that there's so many conscious leaders right here. The fact is, each and every one of you is a conscious leader. Some of you know it, some of you are yet to discover it, right? So I was talking to Miley a couple of months ago, and she said, you'll be looking for a space to host our next UACC. And I'm like, I would love to do that because we opened this space last year, September. And my history relationship with UACC goes back a long way. Like since the inception, I was working at the Salt Lake Chamber. And really, Eunice, a great friend and a mentor and a conscious leader herself, is such an amazing role model. So I'm really happy to see you here. And just want to acknowledge the beautiful person you are and such a conscious leader. Okay, so there's good news and bad news. So conscious leadership is really not, and when I was talking to Miley, we were like, what do we come up with? What's the title for this presentation? And we said, conscious leadership, because that's the way I live my life. And so it's basically telling my story. And each and every one of you, as we go through life, living our story, telling our story, showing up in that authentic way, is being conscious in leading. And the thing is, money, power, fame does not really impact, your ability to be a conscious leader, because each and every one of us, if you're alive, we are leading our lives. And so from the time you wake up, are you waking up with this enthusiasm, positive energy to go and make your day and to show up in a way that's authentic to you, till the time you go to bed and feel like you've had a great day, satisfied, and feel that sense of fulfillment It's really leading your life in a way that's authentic to you. And conscious leadership is not a one size fits all. Everybody has their own way of leadership. In 2010, after 3 years of soul searching, I found my passion to be food. And because my childhood memories go back to food, the best memories I have from my childhood are around food in the kitchen. So I started a line of spice blends and I had them at the farmer's market, 2010. The following year, I started my first restaurant, Saffron Valley. And over the next 10 years, I started about 10 different restaurants, including these three, including rice. So I say food establishments. But really, and then I was at the height of my business, and it was COVID, and I had an ankle fracture. And I was couch bound for eight weeks, and I was like forced to stop and to take a look at myself. And I realized that I wasn't fulfilled in my personal life, which made sense because I was always passionate, I was always purpose driven, but something was not aligning, which is when I shifted my focus from just looking outward to being more soul-centered. And so it has changed my life and how I show up and how it has impacted my life and everybody else around me. And so, and then I started Rise and, just been living my life since then from a very soul-centered perspective. I wanted to take a couple of minutes to reflect on a time when you felt truly inspired by a leader. And what qualities or actions did that leader exhibit that made a lasting impact on you? I think that's important. It's such a fulfilling experience to know people who have been there, done that before us, and to learn from other people's successes and also some of the learning experiences. So I'm sure we all have had a leader, whether it's in person or through the media. But if you have someone, just think of what were the qualities that you most liked about that leader. So being a conscious leader, you tap into your own intuition, into your own trust, into your own authentic imprint in this world. And that's what tapping into your potential is about. It's a very personal journey. And what are some of the benefits of being a conscious leader? You find your passions when you step into this journey of being more aware of the conscious leadership style. You find your passions in life. You get very clear. You find your purpose in life, right? Those are cool things because I hear a lot of people like, I don't know what my passion is. I don't know what my purpose is. But if we took the time to go inwards and to lead from that conscious space, trust me, it's very possible. And then you find your tribe, the people who you are attracted to you and who you are attracted to. And it creates this sense of a community around like-minded people. So you become more stable, you become more confident, and you become fearless. I think that's also a very key thing of being a conscious leader is tapping into our own selves and to overcome our fears, which we all do as human beings. We are hardwired for fear. And so just help us get fearless, right? And then, of course, better decision making. So life is full of decisions. From the time you wake up till the time you go to bed, you're making decisions all along. And oftentimes we're second guessing whether it's the right thing or should I have done that. So I think being more conscious as a leader helps us make better decisions and better outcomes in your life. And you start to manifest. This is the cool thing. I think what I love most about being a conscious leader in your life, in your work, in the world, is that you have the potential, you have the capabilities to really get clear on what it is that you want in life and to start visualizing it and to start believing that you deserve it and it's possible and to start taking action towards that. And things automatically start lining up. It's just the law of nature. And some things, as much as we are people of the head, and that's good, but I think sometimes you got to trust. You got to have the faith and trust that, when you have belief in yourself, the universe kind of aligns to make things possible for you. Now, I have a question. I know this is getting very deep, but I am a deep person. And so, how many of you here think it is crucial to make decisions from the head? From the head, like logical mind. You said it, yes. And then there are some of us who, make decisions from the heart, from the feelings, from the emotions. But I think the right balance of the head and the heart is really kind of the essence of conscious leadership. And each one of us has access to that. It's just that we're so conditioned one way or the other that there's a little bit of an imbalance. And you can call it different ways, like masculine and feminine and soul-centric and egocentric and head and heart. But I think a little bit of everything. Like, ego is not a bad thing. We all have an ego. It's like the facade we have that protects us from the outside world. And it has its place, but just being conscious of when we are operating from the ego, which is really mostly rooted in fear, to then shifting towards being more soul-centered, which comes from heart, right? Okay, what are the characteristics of a conscious leader? I think it starts really with personal responsibility. Like, whatever it is, wherever we are in life, if we can, as adults, we can take full responsibility, personal responsibility for everything that's happening to us, and that we have a choice of things that are not serving us to step away from, I think we start living life. Because and sadly, nobody teaches it. Life, through hard knocks, we get to that point. But I feel like when you start taking personal responsibility is when you start living your life. And that makes us adaptable to shift and to just really be resilient to different situations and tough situations and everything tough that happens in my life. And I'm speaking from my own experience, has taught me something. Like, even the most difficult of people or situations, I've gained the most, knowledge about my own self. And sometimes you try to help people who are not, as aware, but then it's not our duty or our job. It's not on us to be responsible for anybody else's journey. But we get to see, we get to learn, we get to move on. And and that's another characteristic of a conscious leader, like personal responsibility, being adaptable, being resilient to situations, and knowing that we really don't have control over another person or another situation, but just our own self and how we show up with our energy, right? Emotional regulation. Before that, it's humility. I think another quality of conscious leaders is really being humble and always having a learner's mind, always learning and growing, and just no matter how much we know, always knowing that it's just a drop in the ocean. There is so much more to learn and to live and to grow is another quality. And that helps us be joyful, be happy in the moment, and not have regrets about the past or anxiety about the future. So that's another quality. Emotional regulation. Life is 1% what happens to us and 99% how we react to it or respond to it. So emotions are absolutely, emotional regulation, I think, is such a key to being a conscious person, a conscious leader. So there are tools and techniques that help us with that. And but I look up to, like, the ancient Indian philosophies or the modalities of yoga and breath work and meditation, which really help us calm our nervous system down. That's the scientific, reasoning of emotional regulation, how that happens, where we're brought back to homeostasis. Just like in exercise, how we exercise our body to gain physical strength, we also need to exercise our mind to gain mental strength. And in physical exercise, there's this thing called heart rate variability, like how your heart rate goes up and how your resting heart rate and the number difference between that. Similarly, in your mental strength, we all as human beings go through emotions and go through various emotions, sad, happiness, anger, all of that. But I think the time it takes for you to get back to homeostasis or the neutral line, the lesser, the better, because we don't want to stay in those heightened states of anger, frustration, madness for long, because it affects us, it affects our body. So I think all of these tools that I mentioned earlier help us get back to that neutral state quickly and safely as possible, because that's where life is, and not in the heightened states of happy, overly joyed or overly sad. Identifying your leadership values. So here, I would like to ask a few questions and go into a little bit of reflection to just really find what your principles and beliefs that guide you as a leader, and the decisions and the actions you take as a leader. Write down 3 values that are most important to you in your role as a leader. If you don't mind, you can just write it anywhere on that sheet, but what are the 3 most important values for you as a leader? Okay, so now having kind of reflected on your values and a leadership decision or a challenge you faced, if you feel like you have applied your values to that situation, great, you're on the right track. But if you feel like there's been a disconnect, think about how you can better align your values to your leadership style moving forward, right? It's as simple as that, to just take the time to stop, reflect, and to reassess and change course. And that again goes back to the adaptability and the flexibility too. So I have the sheet that I passed on, which has like different areas within leadership style. So just something as a tool for you to look at and to see and to really know your style as a leader, and if it aligns with your values, and if you need to bring in some corrections, and you best know what those solutions are. The 3 main ingredients, I think, for being a conscious leader are self-awareness, empathy, and authenticity. So self-awareness, knowing who you really are, and that goes back to our childhood, our upbringing, and knowing, and even before that, I think if you have areas that you feel like you are stuck in the realm of leadership, whatever it is, whether it's better decision-making skills, whether it's conflict resolution, whether it's relationship building, whether it's communication, if you have some things you feel like you are stuck, oftentimes it is from our conditioning, from childhood, from societal, from parental conditioning, and taking the time to see where that stems from, and to understand that that also overlaps with the emotional intelligence part, is to know that that's what we're familiar. We know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. So, but if something is not working, it's our body, it's our mind, it's our spirit telling us that we're not in alignment. So can you please take a look and do something so we can show up and live a happy, joyful life? And so it oftentimes, like I said, goes back to our childhood. So looking at those conditioning beliefs, the limiting beliefs, and to know that, our mind, our brain is so hardwired in these beliefs that that it's not serving us. But then also to realize that our brains are all the thoughts in our brain are not facts. They're not facts. They're just a thought, right? So, and they come from this limiting belief from the childhood. So tracing that back, and that thought triggering that feeling, whether it's happiness or sadness, and that makes you say certain things and do certain things, which is your outcome. So it all goes back to our thoughts, really. So if in any area you feel you're stuck, I think I would say take the time to think, what are those thoughts that are making you stay in a stuck fashion? And then we can work backwards like that to where we can change our actions depending on changing the thought, right? The next important principle of conscious leadership is empathy, which is, we all know what empathy is, but how do we practice some strategies around being more empathetic? Is active listening. So really taking the time to listen to whoever it is that you're engaging with, interacting with, and getting to know different perspectives. For oftentimes we're always looking at things from our own perspective, from our own lens of the world, and we miss the boat on thinking. I was like that for the longest time. Like I always thought everybody thinks like me, right? Like why aren't they thinking like me? But that is just not the way it is. Everybody has their own imprint, their own lens that they look at life, and it could be very well different from how we look at things. And so to understand that, it's okay. We all can coexist, and respect and value each other's views and perspectives is so important to being more empathetic as a leader. Communicating assertively and to voice your opinions. We as a society, and I can speak for myself, have been conditioned to not speak up, to not voice our opinions, to always be nice, and to always, just mind our own lanes. And I disagree. And it does not mean that we are, standing on top of the mountain and screaming and being aggressive. We can still, be kind. I think I like the word kind more than nice, because you can be kind and speak your truth passionately, compassionately. And I think that's the place that I have always aspired to be, and I continue to work on it. So finding your voice and voicing your opinions in a way that is, you're speaking your truth, can be so empowering and help us strengthen our own leadership style. So we can then be an example for people around us, because as leaders, whether it's our kids or our team members, they're looking for guidance. So take the time every day, because practice is everything. And to practice, you need self-discipline. And I know that self-discipline is the highest form of self-love. We all say we love ourselves, but we all know what to do. But do we take the time and the discipline to actually do what we're supposed to do? And when you can do that, you're really, walking the talk, and you do love yourselves. And cultivating a growth mindset, an abundant mindset, which some of us are born with, fortunately, because of certain things that we have been exposed to or experienced in our childhood, because it's both ways. Childhood upbringing has its pros and cons. And so we have to give credit to both. The things that have shaped us have given us, the abundance mindset or the positive mindset as well. And so if you, any positive things from your life, like, which then goes back into knowing who you are, knowing your strengths and your areas of improvement and your limiting beliefs. I love to focus a lot on the strengths, because oftentimes we're stuck in what we're not good at and just not focusing on what we are good at. So taking the time to develop more of your passions and your strengths will automatically help with, the areas of improvement or reducing that gap. Stress is such a big thing, and I know there was a decade when we talked about it so much, and I not so much, I guess, but it's always been there and always will. We're just hardwired as human beings to be always vigilant, to always be on guard, to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so just that, back in the day, it was the tiger or some other triggers, but now it's like, a call from this person or a mail from this person or this bill or that bill. So managing stress is so important. So what do you do to manage stress, right? Again, it goes back to nourishing your body, mind, and spirit, and just looking at it holistically. I know a lot of us go exercise, and that's great for the body, but what are you doing for your mind and for your spirit? So having a good diet all around helps us manage that stress. And authenticity is really aligning your inner values with your outer goals and expectations, and to stop living from the expectations of outside influences, whether it's parents, society, and to start following your life in a way that's authentic to you, taking the time to really know what it is that you want and to go out and get it. So when you have that clarity, you want to create something that not only uplifts your life, your families, your communities, but the world at large. And so having that big picture vision of I'm here to do my best, of all my faculties, and to live my life every cell of my body alive and present, and just know that you're here to make a difference in your life, in another person's life, the whole world's life. So that is how I think collective change comes about with one single person, the vision we have for ourselves and for others. And that can be applied to any situation. And that really empowers and inspires others to do the same. So it's a ripple effect. And and that authenticity is, again, integrity, which is how you feel is how you talk, how you show up, and how you live your life. And if there is a disconnect between how you feel and what you do in the outside world, you're not living authentically. And I think that is my biggest learning and journey, and a piece of, advice that I would love to give anybody anytime. So, yeah, and that brings us to the next point. So having said that, self-awareness, empathy, and authenticity, how do we do that? I go back to practicing mindfulness every day and taking time every day for 5 minutes. The first thing you wake up, mornings have such a beautiful, they are just the best time to reprogram ourselves for the day. And little practices add up to massive change over the years. And I just lastly wanted to show you a book that has really helped me. I just opened a page and I know that's what's going on. It's one of those type of books. It's a short read. It's called The Yamas and Niyamas. Although it is based on ancient Indian wisdom, it's written by Deborah Adele. And it's like a book of life principles. So every time you look at something, it has a different meaning. So it is beautiful, and it is based on the ancient Indian Vedic sciences of yoga. It's one of the principles, 8 principles of yoga. So yeah, with that, I think that brings us to the end of my presentation today. So thank you again for the opportunity and for patiently listening. And I wish you all a beautiful, conscious leadership journey ahead. Thanks.